Oh, it's going to be a big night tomorrow. It really is. And last night just made me sick to my stomach watching that football.
Is it a bigger night after last night for us?
No.
Some people saying yes.
No, it's not. It's really not. Like, it's already of the biggest kind of magnitude, this game. Forget what happened last night. Forget that kind of tin pot European trophy that they're playing in. We've got a real European football to contend with, and that is Tottenham against Eintracht Frankfurt. And if we must start this game really fast, because I think if we can get an early goal, if we can put them under pressure early doors, then I think they're going to have to be forced to open up a little bit, and they're going to be forced to kind of try and find that goal, because they don't want to be, they can't afford to let us have a significant lead in this game.
For sure, and they know they've got great home form. I was looking at their home form this season. They've only lost 3 in all competitions at home this season, and one of them I think was to Leverkusen. I think one of them was also to Union Berlin. So they have shown they could maybe get the odd defeat, but they have brilliant home form, and I think that comes from the great atmosphere they get in the in their home ground. They do have unbelievable fans, and it's going to be really intense. So it's going to be so important to kind of get as much of an advantage at home as possible. And this is a team potentially, maybe going to this game a bit low in confidence, considering that their league form has really dipped since the departure of Omar Marmoush, and they don't really seem kind of the same attacking kind of force as they were maybe in January when Marmoush was flying. Obviously Ekiteke has done really well over the last couple of months, but as a team I think they've won 3 in their last 10, so they're really not in great form. Obviously our form is not much better, but I'm saying that this is a team that had been flying for a lot of the season, and in that top 4, currently 3rd in the Bundesliga, and they are actually quite an attacking team. They're not actually a team that sits back, and they're a team that likes to go for it more often than not. But they are kind of tactically flexible as well. In a lot of the bigger games, they've moved to a back 3 occasionally to try and kind of stop the opposition and try and be a bit more pragmatic. But they do things in a way where they'll change formation but still try and be offensive. And actually, when they have moved to a back 3, it hasn't served them too well, when I've seen their results in recent weeks. Like, they did get battered by the likes of Bayern and Leverkusen, but obviously we're kind of not on that level. They did swat aside Ajax in the last round very easily, and considering some of the struggle we had against RZ, who are much lower down in the Eredivisie, it goes to show maybe the level that Frankfurt are at, and that was without Marmoush. So clearly they're still a good team. They can still play, and maybe they could get themselves up for this kind of game. But I think definitely away with us at home and them being away from home, there is an opportunity to really put them under pressure and kind of ask them what they're made of here, and ask them a lot of questions, because we know we're a team that when we're at our best, we can create a lot of chances and overwhelm the opposition. We've got to try our best to do that and make sure we're creating as many chances as possible, and just making sure we're getting as healthy lead as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you mentioned, the form of it, they're not really on great form. Look, they have had 3 wins in their last 5, 2 losses. Away from home is a bit patchy. They've also lost 3 out of their last 5 games at home as well. So, look, they're not in the greatest form. They're definitely a team that's beatable, that's for sure. But it's going to be the hardest tie that we've had in the Europa League to date. We did play Galatasaray away, which was obviously very difficult. We went there with a very young side, but we just have to kind of put our weight about. A bit like, in the first half against Southampton, we showed what we were about from early on, and we were putting them under pressure. We were camped out in the opposition's box and we were creating chances. In the second half, obviously, we took our foot off the gas, and it's either whichever way you want to look at it. Did we just have a poor performance in that second half, or there's a sentiment to say that we took our foot off the gas because the players thought they had one eye on the game on Thursday night? And if that's the case, if they did have one eye on this game, they better make sure that they absolutely have a top performance and a really aggressive performance, and put Eintracht Frankfurt under no ends of pressure. And we know, on the odd occasion, we haven't shown it of late recently, but we know that on our day, we can beat anyone at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yeah, and I think now's the time for Ange and for this team to really step up. And I think there's been, countless reasons, excuses, and different things over the last few months about why we're not quite reaching the levels that we want to reach, and why we're getting the results that we are. But we've now had kind of a few weeks with these players back. They're now up to speed. We're now starting to play a consistent team again. We're starting to get that 11 that we want on the pitch consistently, in the last few games. And this is the game to really show that if Ange has got any ambition about staying on here and convincing anyone that he can still do a job here, now's the time to really show that he's capable of doing it. And if he can't do it in this tie, then I think this will be the final nail in his coffin. But if he can do it, then all of a sudden things can change. So I think it's so important that this is the game that we really step up and show what we're capable of and what we're all about.
Yeah, I mean, the positive side is of tomorrow, like if we do come out like a million miles an hour and get an early goal, potentially even two. But then there's also a case of it being a really ugly side tomorrow where we don't come out really sort of bang at it like we've seen in the past. You know, how many games in the last kind of month have we seen us give away a gilt-edged chance in the first few minutes of the game? And if they don't always put it away, but if they do put it away, how toxic can that stadium turn very quickly? Like, because I think the fans will be up for it. Definitely the fans will be up for it, and I think they'll be in full voice. But I think the fan base is so on edge at the moment that if we have a bad start and if we go 1-0 down early, I think it could get quite toxic in that stadium quite early doors.
Yeah, I think depending on how we respond, I would say. But yeah, I think everyone's kind of ready for it to go wrong all of a sudden because we've seen it go wrong so often this season. Yeah. We're kind of just looking for it. We're looking for signs of it about to go wrong. So I think a fast start could really get the crowd behind us, and all of a sudden it could be a great European night at Spurs. And we've seen a lot of good European nights. Even at this stadium, we've seen quite not too many, but a few. So it's very, very important that we get on the right track straight away, making sure that they're in for a game immediately. I want to see a physical side. I want to see putting in challenges, strong challenges, and getting the crowd up for it. And putting them under pressure straight away, and that's going to be what could set the tone for this game. And I agree, don't want to be conceding a goal or conceding a good chance, very early on that we have done a few times in recent weeks, especially. So it's very, very crucial that we start this game right, 100%.
Yeah, you mentioned Hugo Ekitike before. He's actually not on such great form. Actually, he went for a period where he was banging the goals, but I think he's only scored 1 or 2 goals since the beginning of March, which he's played quite a significant amount of games. I'm talking about Bundesliga here. So I think he's a striker that we can I'd be a lot more worried if we were coming up against Marmoush than him. He's a good player, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's a player that's absolutely banging in the goals for fun at the moment.
Well, he's got 27 goal contributions in all competitions this season. So
I'm talking about recent form.
Okay, but I think I saw first of all in Europa League, I think in the last round he did pretty well.
And he scored a goal, yeah.
And I think on international duty, I know he's only under 21s. He scored a hat-trick against England, though, who are, the England under 21 team are actually quite a decent team. So I still think this is definitely a striker to be feared. Yeah, he's not maybe in the last few games, maybe not in the best of form, but he's shown this season what a great striker he is. And I think in the big games, there's always that fear that he brings his best out, and he's a very quick striker. He's one, if you're not watching him, he can very easily get in behind you, and he's got a very good finish, and he gets a few assists as well. He does definitely help out his teammates. So maybe not in the best of form at the current time, but this season he's having a brilliant season. So especially I think in Europa League he's done pretty well overall. I'm trying to see how many goals he's got. 3 goals and 3 assists in the Europa League this season. So he's having a pretty good campaign. So he's definitely the one to watch, I would say, for them.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of other players as well in Mario Götze. I mean, he'd forgotten man a bit, Mario Götze. Cast your mind back however long it was. He was, the future of Germany's hopes and an unbelievable player playing for Borussia Dortmund. And obviously he had a few injuries here and there, really bad ones, and it kind of derailed his career. But he's having a bit of a renaissance at Eintracht Frankfurt this season.
Yeah, definitely been a lot better this season than he has been in previous. I wouldn't say he's anywhere near his best or anything like that. And even though he's not even that old, he's still 31 or 32. He kind of plays like a player in his late 30s rather than early 30s. Definitely he's done quite well in Europa League as well. The thing is with Götze, it's not necessarily his physical traits, but he's just got an incredible brain. He's so smart. He knows what positions to pick up. He's one where you take your eye off him for a second and he can make something happen. I would say he's one where if you're concentrating for 90 minutes and you're just making sure he's not, if you restrict him with the space he requires, he's not a player who's just going to get away from you with his physicality. But he is a player where if you switch off your concentration, all of a sudden he can pick up in a position you just within a flash that you don't expect him to, and then all of a sudden he can make the difference because he's so creative. He's a very, very clever player, but he's definitely not the player he was. And even now, when he's having a better season, he's still nowhere near the levels that he used to be. But he has still got clearly he's shown that he's still capable of producing at this level.
And Hugo Larsson as well in the middle of the park, very aggressive kind of midfielder where we're going to have to keep an eye on in terms of the midfield battle is going to be really fierce with him in the middle of the park. And how do you think kind of Bentancur and a Bergvall match up in terms of the physical profile that he brings?
Yeah, I wonder if Bergvall will know him well. Maybe they've been on international duty a few times together.
For sure.
So I'm sure Bergvall and Decky can give a few pointers, but he's one obviously linked with a lot of kind of top clubs at the moment. He's a weird one. He can sometimes play maybe similar to Bergvall in the sense he can play a bit further forward and he can also play further back as well. So he's very adaptable, very high quality midfielder, having a fantastic season with Frankfurt. So we know that Bentancur on the 6, he's had this tendency to be overrun sometimes, especially if the midfield isn't functioning. And with someone like Larsson in there, for sure, there's a fear of that because he's got the ability to dominate, and we've seen that. So we need to make sure that Bergvall gives him a few pointers. Bergvall himself has to make sure that he's not letting his runners go and he's concentrating. Because I think Bergvall just likes to go 100 miles an hour a lot. Sometimes he runs around like a headless chicken a bit too much, which can be a massive positive when he's getting close to players, making those challenges and when he's gliding past players. But also sometimes he's always because he's always kind of just looking to go and make that challenge, sometimes that's not the right decision. Sometimes you need to pick up your runner. Sometimes you need to, run with your man. And sometimes he doesn't do that and he lets him go. And he's always kind of so concentrated on how can I make the tackle. Sometimes he's not in the right position to kind of maybe make an interception or even track his runner to make sure they're not getting a free shot and all those kind of stuff. So I think Bergvall, very much, he's going to have to curtail that side of his game, hopefully. But we know the quality he's got when he's on the ball and when he's in full flight, and this is such a massive game. So he's going to be very crucial in that midfield and also making sure that Larsson isn't dictating the game too much.
Is it going to be hard for Frankfurt to maybe prepare for this game as well as maybe they could have with our kind of mix and match team over the last kind of month or so? Because when we're coming into this game, we kind of know what we're going to get with Frankfurt. They play a very similar team pretty much every game, where we've been playing like a mix and match team for so long now. Yeah,
I think the last few games they can see what our 11 has been. So I'm sure they've done their research and they can see it's not going to be too dissimilar. I think to the game on the lineup in the last 2 games. So the only thing is we've just been so out of form, for a long time. It's kind of like you have to kind of prepare. They have to kind of prepare for us being on good form. That's how you have to prepare for this game. And maybe they could go into this game underestimating us if they think we're just going to be like we've been basically for over the last few months. And maybe there's a chance we could turn it on in this game and catch them off guard. So I do think they'll know what we're gonna do because I think they'll have seen the lineups that we've been putting out over the last few weeks, and they'll know that that's probably what they're gonna come up against. But I think it'll be hard for them to know what Spurs are going to turn up because our pressing hasn't been quite as effective in recent weeks. Haven't been creating as many chances in recent weeks, but that could be different on Thursday.
Yeah. I guess so. I just need to see a top performance from Spurs, just for my own sanity going into this game, man. Because this has been the focus of basically everything that we've been speaking about for so long now. We've all been saying, the Premier League don't matter. The Premier League don't matter. It's all about that Frankfurt game. Pretty much ever since the Alkmaar game, we've been saying that, right? So it's just so important that, because even the players, they haven't been saying that, but they have been kind of mentioning it, Europa League, and just mentioned it as well. It's just so important that we come into this game, we don't shit the bed, and we just have a proper performance. And the players are really bang up for it. They have to be bang up for it for this one. They just have to be.
If you look at the form, if you bring up the form of the both sides, it's actually not that dissimilar at the moment. Like, goals scored in the last 5 pretty similar. We've conceded a few more. Our home form is, pretty similar to their kind of away form, maybe a bit better. Our away form, though, is just, so woeful, isn't it? So I think that's why there's such emphasis on this tie at home. We know that we're not very good away from home, let's be honest, and we tend to not really do much away from home. But the only thing you can say away from home is we do lose, but again, we do usually only lose by the odd goal on most occasions. So if we can get a lead by 2 goals into the second leg, there is a chance that if we can just basically limit them to only a 1 goal advantage, then that'll be enough.
We have to. 2 goal minimum. Ideally 3 goal plus, but I mean, I don't know if I can see that happening. But look, like I keep saying, like on our day, if we just click on that specific day, we can blow them away. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah, and also they're a weird team because if you actually look at their stats as well this season, like in terms of goals scored and goals conceded, and very similar to us in the Bundesliga this season. They're third for goals scored and they're mid-table for goals conceded. And actually the actual specific number as well is pretty similar. We've scored 58, they've scored 55. We've conceded 45, they've conceded 42. Our goal difference is the same. And the goals for and goals against are also quite similar. But they're third and we're 14th. It's just funny how that works. But I actually think in terms of how they approach the game, it's very different to how they were under Glasner. Glasner took a very obviously different kind of approach when obviously he won the Europa League not so long ago with Frankfurt. But obviously they played very regimented back 3, very much the two kind of the front 3 were kind of 2 number 10s and a big target man number 9. They had that winger Kostic basically as a wing back, and he was basically a winger on that side. And they played a game quite different to how this Frankfurt side, who definitely a lot more kind of free flowing, like they do commit a lot more risk. And I think they're going to come to the Tottenham Stadium, and I don't see them just shutting up shop. They're going to come here looking to win, I think. And because I think when they have been a bit more pragmatic, it hasn't really worked out for them. Then it doesn't really suit them. But in a way, obviously we know how we're going to play. I think they'll like that we play the way we do as well, because it leaves them space. But we could also like the way they play.
But also on the flip side of that, whenever they come up against a difficult tie, they do usually go 3 at the back. They do go a bit more kind of pragmatic and sit a bit deeper. That's kind of just what they usually do. And I don't think this is going to be any different. I think they are going to sit a little bit further back, and they'll know as well that if they keep it tight and compact, we're not really great at cutting teams open and playing against that kind of style of football at the moment. We're just not creating enough chances. So I think they'll be looking at what we've been doing recently, and they'll think, like, if they can come to Tottenham, just sit deep, sit compact, and don't give Spurs too many chances, then they can take us in the home leg. Yeah,
but my only point being is when they've done that, what you're saying, it hasn't really worked out for them. Hasn't really bared the results. So
it's usually against a lot better opposition, which they've done that against.
I know, but still, you still need to, if you think it's going to be a strategy that works, you need to see it working, kind of thing, and it hasn't worked. And also, whether you want to think about if we obviously we have better players and maybe they're not going to underestimate us, but as well, we are a team struggling for confidence and we are for a team. So maybe they won't look. I'm just hypothesizing, but maybe they'll go into this game not feeling a need to be fearful about what we can do and actually just go them. And maybe if they know if they can win this game in the first leg, what an unbelievable chance that they'll have of getting through in that second leg with the fans behind them. So I kind of feel like they're at their best when they're kind of going forward. And I know he's sometimes had the tendency to go to a back 3 away at bigger teams, but I don't know if he'll do that tomorrow. If maybe he'll kind of avoid that temptation and just go where they're at their best, which is attacking, and knowing that because we're an offensive team, it would suit that style of play as well.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like I just think he's going to go to the tactics which he's kind of reverted to in these big games. And yeah, it didn't work against the likes of Munich or Leverkusen, but because of the way we're playing and because of our tendencies at the moment to not be able to kind of break down teams, I feel that's the way he's gonna play it, and I think it'll be more probably to our detriment if he does do that. But look, we just got to focus on ourselves, and we've got to focus on the strengths that we do have, which we do have a lot of strengths going into it. And the likes of Sonny, the likes of Maddison need to take this game by the scruff of the neck. The likes of Bergvall just need to keep doing what he's always been doing and dragging and driving this team forward. Solanke needs to be at his aggressive best, and he needs to put the ball in the bloody back of the net and just lead that press and be absolutely relentless in it. And Brennan Johnson needs to put the ball in the back of the net as well and arrive late in the box like he does, and show that kind of elite positioning that he does have in the box, where he can get a goal or two in the game. So I think if all these players kind of play to their strengths, as well as a Mickey van der Ven and a Couti Romero, we know what they like to do in defence, with Jed Spence as well and Pedro Porro. If all these guys play to their strength, we'll win this game.
I think what's going to be crucial as well is the squad, the subs, because if it is, we could be leading by one or whatever going into those last 20 minutes or so. If we have the luxury of, we have the likes of Tel, Odegaard, Richarlison to come and bring on and make a difference. And I think that could be very telling, because I think Frankfurt actually have quite a few injuries going into this game. Looking at their injury list, it's quite, they got, well, not too many. They got a few. They got about 5 players probably out for this game. So I think we obviously got better options, I would say, off the bench than they do. And that could be really, really crucial up against tired legs. Odegaard running at them, maybe getting Richarlison to kind of add the energy if Solanke starts waning, the trickery potentially of Tel, if we can get him on the pitch, people like Sarr adding that energy. That is going to be really, really crucial, because if we can get an extra goal or two in those last 20 minutes, that could be the whole difference. And even when you think back to our Champions League run back in 2019, how important the subs were in that run, when Llorente coming on, changing the game constantly and things like that. So I think the squad, as much as the starting 11 is going to be crucial, having that squad come on and make an impact off the bench, that is going to be real crucial to making sure that we take the lead required going into that second leg. Absolutely.
And that lead is a must. I think if it's only like, let's say, a draw tomorrow night, that really puts the tie in doubt. If we go there with a 1-0 lead, I still think we're taking advantage there, and I think that could. It doesn't fill me with confidence going there with a 1-0 lead, but if we do go there with a 1-0 lead, there's still a good chance that we go through.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we obviously would go there with an advantage, and I know we haven't been great away from home, and I know Frankfurt are a pretty good team at home, especially with the atmosphere. But we know we're capable. We know we've got good players in the team, and especially if Decky can come back as well for that second leg, that can make a big, big difference. So, obviously, I would definitely not rule out. I mean, if I offered you now a 1-goal advantage, are you taking it?
Probably bite your hand off for it, to be honest.
Bite your hand off.
I don't want to, because if you say, would I take a 1? I mean, I don't even know what that phrase means anymore. You know what I mean? Would I take it? I would take a lead.
Offered it to you. I'm offering you a 1-0 right now. Are you taking it?
To risk a draw or a loss? Yeah, I probably would take it.
You would take it.
I probably would. Would you not?
I wouldn't take it. I'd rather roll the dice and see if we can do better.
That's because you're a gambler.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, look, I think any lead going into the second leg is positive. Obviously, I think a 2 or a 3-goal lead puts it firmly within our favour. A 1-0 is still in the balance, really. But I think any kind of lead taking out to Frankfurt is positive.
They are, albeit they're kind of, the club are experienced at this kind of level in terms of, I was doing a bit of research in recent years, they've made quite a few, cup finals. They've obviously won the Europa League, but this is a very young team compared to obviously the teams that went far in those competitions before. It's quite a different team, very different team to the one that obviously won Europa League. I don't know how many players are still playing in that team that did when they won it. But in terms of the club and the mentality, they are a bit more used to being maybe in recent years in these positions compared to us in recent years where we've kind of not gone this far. This is since obviously we in recent years, since we got back in Europe in 2005, specifically in Europa League, or even in any European competition, obviously we made the Champions League final. Apart from that, this is our second or third European quarter final in the last 20 years. We got to the quarters against Basel. We went out.
Yeah.
We got to the quarters against You know, I was going to say Juventus in the Champions League. That wasn't the quarters. I think it was round of 16.
Yeah.
So Basel. When else
Basel City.
Was Zagreb the quarters?
Don't think so.
I think that was last 16 as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's it. PSV was, but I don't know how long PSV was.
I don't know, but was that quarters?
Tottenham PSV was a quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think. Actually, I don't know. It might have been last 16.
What year was that?
That was 2008 under Ramos. So it quarters were last 16.
It wasn't even Europa League. It was UEFA Cup.
Yeah, UEFA Cup.
Don't know. It doesn't say here. I thought it was. The quarters.
I'm trying to remember.
It says UEFA Cup 4th round.
Yeah, I think that means
That's
last
not quarters.
16. I think that means last 16. But the year before, I think against Sevilla, that was a quarter-final.
Yeah.
So, I think we've been to 3 European quarter-finals in the last 20 years. So it's not like we've been blessed with being in this position that much, is it? It was last 16 PSV, yeah. Last 16.
Yeah.
So it's not like, and this is we are facing a team and a club that have won it recently. And
Yeah.
they have a bit more experience there.
I just looked at their lineup from the Europa League final that year against Ajax, and it was only 2 players that are still going to be in the starting lineup.
Who's that?
Knauf and what's his name? Tuta.
But you know how these things, in terms of being a club in that position, it can be a very powerful thing in football. But obviously, you need to break that spell, and I think it's our chance to do it tomorrow night. It's just very, very big.
Yeah, I think though, like we have knocked Frankfurt out of European competition in recent years as well. Albeit, I was about to say that they don't usually do that well when they play English competition, but they did knock out West Ham on the route to that Europa League final.
That was the same year we knocked them out of the Champions League, didn't? And
Yeah.
they went on to win it. They went on to win the Europa League.
Yeah.
Which obviously you can't do nowadays.
But even back then, when we played them in the Champions League, like it was very tough games against them. Really tough.
yeah, they're like Kamada, then Kostic, all these very, very good players.
I do think their team then is better than what it is now in terms of quality wise.
Yeah, when you look at it, and especially since Marmoush's gone, and I think that could if they had Marmoush and Ekiteke, I think wow, what a real battle we would have to get through this tie. I still think it'll be a battle, but without Marmoush, obviously that's a massive swing in our favour that he's not there anymore, because he was just unbelievable for them this season. One of the most incredible halves of the season in the Bundesliga I've seen in recent years, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Bar Harry Kane, yeah. But look, it's a massive night for Tottenham Hotspur. This is kind of like we've been building up to this moment for so long now, and it's just so important that we put in a big performance for the fans, a big performance for the club. Everyone needs to be united in unison as one, supporting the 11 players on the pitch on the night. And there can't be any sort of like ounce of negativity kind of seeping out from the stands, because the players will feel that on the pitch, and it's just not something we need in a game of this magnitude, is it?
What would you say if we score a third goal, we go 3-0 up, and then Ange cups his ear to the fans?
I wouldn't care. I really would not care. If we're 3-0 up against Frankfurt,
Cut both ears.
Exactly. Ange can do what the hell he wants on the sidelines there, because I just would not care. Like, taking a 3-goal lead to Frankfurt.
Or about if we get a 90th minute equaliser and he cups his
ear. Get him out after that game. You know what I mean? Get him out.